Marinaro, the Sick Podcast, the Montreal Canadiens practiced earlier today, and we saw the lines, and I think it's a good indication that those lines are going to go for the Canadiens on Wednesday night when the Montreal Canadiens open up their season when they visit the Maple Leafs in Toronto. Guess who Patrick Laine is playing with? If you guessed with Kirby Dach on the second line, you're wrong. Guess who Kirby Dach is playing with? If you guessed Demidov, you're wrong. And so I'm going to tell you what those lines are in just a couple of minutes. Also, there's a tweet that came out earlier today from Emily Kaplan that involves Montreal Canadiens Lane Hutson. Should be we worried in light of the information that came out? Yes or no? We'll discuss all of this and so much more with Eric Engels of Sportsnet.ca. He's coming up on the Sick Podcast. I'm Marinaro.
It's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick Podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, 'cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K, S-I-C-K, S-I-C-K, S-I-C-K, S-I-C-K.
all in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. With Tony Marinaro,
55 seconds left in the penalty, a minute and 27 seconds left in regulation time. Boston 4, Montreal 3. Lafleur coming out rather gingerly on the right side. He gives it into Lemaire, back to Lafleur. Oh!
the sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
You're in the ball!
Sports entertainment like no other.
Rejoint, on lui fait perdre la rondelle, une passe devant. Et c'est le dégagement et ce sera la victoire des Canadiens. Stanley pour les Canadiens, le 23e de l'histoire.
You found the dogs! John, you found the dogs! He found the dogs!
And all together, they worked the young team to the top. And now, a
24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup.
Brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. La Vida Tibi. Embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination. It's gonna be sick.
Marinaro, the Sick Podcast on this Monday, October 6th. I hope you were watching earlier this morning for those of you who speak français, qui parle français, because this morning was a historic day in the history of our company, Sick Media. For the first ever time, Le Sick Podcast en français. And it started this morning at 10 a.m. So now we can say it. Here we are. We're there. The Sick Podcast, Monday to Friday at 10 p.m. in English. And Le Sick Podcast, lundi au vendredi à 10 heures le matin en français. The one that you're accustomed to that you're watching right now is a Montreal Canadiens podcast. A Montreal Canadiens specific podcast where we talk Habs and only Habs. And the one that I bring you at 10 a.m. every morning in French, weekday morning, is kind of going to be like a sports show type of thing where we're going to talk about all Montreal teams, the Montreal Canadiens, CF Montreal, the Montreal Alouettes, basically all sporting events that take place in the city of Montreal, in La Belle Province, amateur and professional athletes from Montreal or the province of Quebec. Listen, with a big emphasis, of course, on the Montreal Canadiens, but we will touch on other sports. So, for example, earlier today, I had Anthony Martineau who joined me, and he was at the Complexe Sportif CN in Brossard. We talked Habs hockey with him. But then after that, Jeremy Filosa of Cogeco Media joined me and the Blue Jays podcast. And Jeremy talked to me about the Toronto Blue Jays, who are up 2-0 in their series versus the Yankees. Then after that, of course, we had Eric Oziel, who joined me to talk about a prediction for Nick Suzuki and talked about Lane Hutson's contract, which hasn't got done yet. More on that coming up with Eric Engels in just a couple of minutes. And then after that, I had a chance to talk to Arnaud Gasconadon about, of course, this weekend's NFL action and to preview the game tonight. And then I had a chance to air an interview that I did with Samuel Montembeault yesterday. And by the way, I'm going to air an interview that I did with Noah Dobson yesterday, also tonight at one point during our conversation with Eric Engels. And I also had a chance to talk to Gavino Di Falco of IMFC Radio. I talked to him about CF Montreal's second last game of the season, which was played on the weekend, a 1-1 tie versus Nashville. Unfortunately for them, they finished with the worst record at home of any team in the MLS. And then I finished it off with Eric Belanger talking Montreal Canadiens hockey. So if you can watch it, it's on the same YouTube channel as the English one. I'm trying to bring together the two solitudes, and that's why you have the English podcast and the French podcast both on the same channel. Without further ado, Eric Engels, how are you?
Eric Engels, presented by Allard and Emmon, experts in heating, air conditioning, and ventilation since 1977.
And yes, Eric Engels is brought to you by Allard and Emmon. For nearly 50 years, Allard and Emmon has set the standard for HVAC service in Montreal. Their focus is simple, unmatched quality, and dependable comfort for your home. I had a chance to meet for the very first time Julian earlier today, who stopped by our studio, which is in Ville Saint Laurent. Visit allardemont.com to learn more. Allard and Emmon, experts in heating, air conditioning, and ventilation since 1977. And he came in to not only talk about the podcast, but also to set us up with a wall-mounted air conditioner in our studio in Ville Saint Laurent. We appreciate his support. Eric, how are you?
I'm good, man. Unmatched quality and comfort provided. That's exactly what I'm aiming for on the segment.
Okay, perfect. So then it's going to be good. You must be pretty good at this because you're on Spitting Chicklets now. Now you're on with the big boys. Not your first time with Spitting Chicklets, though.
No, I think it's the fourth.
Fourth time.
It's hilarious. They like to bust my balls pretty good. They
oh, really, eh?
Oh, you love the Montreal Canadiens. This is a huge Leafs fan. He likes to bust my chops about that.
Yeah.
I try and always say the same thing. Look, I cheer for players. I don't cheer for teams. It's 17 years.
Well, if you really want to get to them, all you have to just say is 1967. That's it.
I don't need to get to him. He's hilarious. Those guys are really funny, and I can take a joke as well as anybody.
Fantastic stuff. Okay, good stuff. Listen,
I'm also in English and French.
Yes, you're with Martin Lemay.
Much to the chagrin of some people who have to listen to it, but I'm doing my best. Je fais mon effort. See?
You know what, Eric? That's all they want. All they want is the effort. That's all
right.
they want. When I announced to family and friends that I was going to be doing some work also en français, somebody said to me, "Oh my God, they're not going to like you." And I said, "Why?" And they said, "Because your French is not perfect and you make a lot of mistakes in masculine and feminine and all that stuff." And I said, "You know what? You might be right, but I don't think you are." And I'll tell you why I think they're going to like me, because I'm trying very hard to be the best that I can be at speaking their language. And I think the effort is something that they appreciate and will appreciate a heck of a lot more than the disappointment or anger of me making a couple of mistakes with masculine and feminine and all that stuff. And you know what? I think it's gone that way, so I'm pretty happy about that. So.
Yeah. I'm doing the same with Marty Lemay on the retour. And as I always say, je suis Montréalais, je suis Québécois, je suis né ici, j'ai 42 ans. Je suis pas parfait en français, mais quand même.
You know what?
Right? And you're right. Having lived here our whole lives, Tony.
I watched you today. You did a really good job with that. And you were on it around 3:15 earlier this afternoon. I had a chance to watch everything. You did a good job, Eric. Keep it up. Okay.
Merci.
On the weekend or yesterday, the Canadians let it be known, of course, that they were putting Kakkonen and Blais on waivers. The Blais on waivers disappointed me a little bit, by the way. Not that I lost any sleep, but we'll talk about it in a second. And they sent back down to Laval Engstrom, Florian Jacki, who I thought just had a great camp, and Owen Beck. And so that's when we found out that Joe Veleno and of course, Oliver Kapanen made the team. Your thoughts on all of that?
Yeah, I think we found out a lot earlier that Oliver Kapanen made the team, right? The fact that Marty said that he didn't need to see the new Hook Demidov Kapanen line for the last game because they'd already shown him enough, spelled that decision out. Not that it wasn't clear before that, because you look at the camp that Kapanen had, he started off in pole position and never lost it. The Blais to waivers thing I anticipated, although Saturday's game after the performance he put in kind of had me thinking they might wait the first 3 games through 4 nights to do this, that they might carry Blais as a 14th guy. You're playing 3 games, things might get physical. You might want a guy to throw in that has that dimension. He had 5 hits in the game against Ottawa on Saturday. But the whole time my thinking was, I don't think they're going to carry 14 forwards. They're going to probably be a 22-man roster. And waiving Blais is not riskless. You could lose him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they have to be overly concerned about losing him on waivers when they had guys like Florian Jacki and Owen Beck have such good camps, and they also bring that physical dimension and have other elements of their game that I think translate well. What happened was the Toronto Maple Leafs lost Scott Laughton for an extended period of time. Not that Sammy Blais is going to be a perfect replacement for Scott Laughton, but he scores and he hits, and Craig Berube knows him well. And I'll tell you something, when Scott Laughton comes back and the Leafs return to health, if somebody else doesn't go down, Sammy Blais could end up on waivers again, and who knows if the Canadians will have a need at that point. As far as carrying him as a 14th forward, it becomes less of a need, right, when you have Veleno there, and Laval is just a phone call away in 15 minutes by subway. So not the end of the world, and a great opportunity for Blais to play in the NHL versus sit and watch games in the NHL. I think that's good for him. Veleno, what can you say? The guy found his job. He was given a career lifeline with the contract the Canadians gave him, but he still had to pull on that lifeline and grab it and seize it, and he did that. And I think he's not just a 13th forward waiting for his opportunity. I think he's a 13th forward that threatens anybody who's in that lineup that's not playing the way they need to, that he's sitting right there and ready to play pretty much any role. So that's a good thing for him. The camp was a really strong camp. I think I said it to you last week, and I'll end on this point before we move on to the next subject. What it proved to me is that the Canadians have a number of guys that they can call on for NHL duty, including Adam Ekstrom, who was the best player on the ice for Montreal on Saturday.
Okay. All right. So good news, bad news. The bad news is that Eric had some static that was coming out of his webcam that I was hearing. So you know what? Eric just took the webcam off. So now all of a sudden his sound is a heck of a lot better, but his video, the lighting is not quite the same. But you know what? I'd rather have less lighting and better sound. So Eric, we're back.
It's all about the content.
Yes. I mentioned to you earlier that, and look, once again, I didn't lose any sleep. I get it. Samuel Blais is a 14th forward on a team. I understand all that. Coming off of what I thought was his best game in the preseason, played like a guy who really wanted it. I think he's a very good soldier. Has already won a Stanley Cup with the St. Louis Blues. The Canadiens only have one player, I think, who has won a cup elsewhere, and that was Alex Newhook with the Colorado Avalanche. They say you never have enough players who have won Stanley Cups. Blais the kind of guy that's a really, really honest worker, and I was disappointed that he was put on waivers. I understand why he was, and he was picked up earlier today by the arch rival Toronto Maple Leafs. Your thoughts?
Yeah, well, my thoughts are like if he was supposed to be the 14th forward in Montreal, he's going to be the 12th forward in Toronto. I'm not sure what that means for Toronto. You know, like I think what it means for Montreal is they wouldn't have exposed him to waivers if they didn't feel as though they were willing to take that risk. That's just the way it is, right? They didn't have to do it. They if they wanted to, they could carry 23 men. I understand there's a cap accrual element to this, that the Canadiens, and only carrying 22 players, will accrue some space. I think that's important. But I don't think it was the be-all, end-all of this decision. I think the Canadiens had a number of players push through camp, and it gave them the confidence that if they were to expose Blais to waivers and lose him, that they could live with that. And again, a couple months down the line, if you really liked Blais, the chances that he ends up on waivers again, depending on how it goes with Toronto and how their health situation regulates itself, might be available. And potentially the Canadiens at that point could need a body. So we'll see where it goes.
We definitely will see where it goes. Toronto Maple Leafs claim off of waivers Samuel Blais from the Canadiens and former Montreal Canadian Caden Primo from the Carolina Hurricanes. The Canadiens will be in Toronto on Wednesday night to open up their season. They're going to be in Detroit on Thursday, and they're going to be in Chicago on Saturday. The lines, usually, 48 hours before your first game of the season, the lines at practice will end up being the lines to open the season. I think the lines surprised some people today, and here we have them. I was able to get this chart, I think, off of RDS.
Were you surprised?
So here's, was I shocked? No, I figured Suzuki would stay with Slavkovsky and Caulfield, obviously. I figured Kapanen would stay with Demidov and Alex Newhook because they've been really good together, and Marty St. Louis alluded to it. I figured that Joe Veleno would be the 13th forward. He would not be in the lineup. I figured that Kirby Dach would be with Zachary Bolduc on one line. I figured that Jake Evans would be with Josh Anderson. If there's a surprise, it's that Brendan Gallagher is on a line with Doc where a lot of people thought they would see Patrick Laine, and Patrick Laine is on a line with Evans and Anderson where a lot of people thought they would see Brendan Gallagher. Don't you think?
I understand the logic behind it, but I also think that Marty, when he was asked today about Patrick Laine and what he saw from him 5-on-5, he considered the last two games he saw from Laine to be the best ones he's seen from him in Montreal at 5-on-5. Look, I think the second to last one was certainly in that category. The last one on Saturday where nobody looked particularly great. I thought Laine had a great first half of the game. In the second half, it fell off a bit at 5-on-5. But still an improvement from what we saw when he was last next to Doc and Demidov. So I'm not surprised by these lines. I also won't be surprised if late in the game you see Josh Anderson, Jake Evans, and Brendan Gallagher go out together as a line.
So who's the fourth line here?
I don't know why we're so obsessed with that. Like, why are we so obsessed with who's the third line, who's the fourth line, who's the second? I see a top line and three lines that are relatively equal that will, at the end of a game, be very close in terms of ice time and will be used situationally depending on where the puck is on zone starts and what the situation of the game is. Like, I don't see much. At one point, Guy Lafleur said the Canadiens have 4 fourth lines. I don't think they're in that territory. I think they have one clear top line at 5-on-5, one of the best lines in hockey over the last couple of years in Caulfield, Suzuki, and Slavkovsky. and 3 lines that have a lot of versatility and variety to them that we could see mixed up here and there, not only from game to game, but within a game. I understand that people will say, well, it's Jake Evans, Josh Anderson, and Patrick Laine, but are they going to fill the traditional role of a quote-unquote fourth line, grind line? No, like there's going to be some scoring there. There's going to be some defensive elements there. I think you have 3 lines underneath Suzuki's, and you could tell me if you disagree, that you can pretty much trust in most, if not all, situations.
Okay. The Florida Panthers, they won the Stanley Cup last year, and they won the Stanley Cup the year before. All right. On their fourth line, they had Thomas Nosek. They had AJ Greer. And I think they had Gajovic. Did they not?
Correct.
Okay. That was the fourth line of the Florida Panthers, right? So why do we call that the fourth line for the Florida Panthers, but we can't say, well, why do we have to number lines with the Montreal Canadiens? Teams have a first, a second, a third, and a fourth line. They do. Now, some nights, a team's fourth line outplays the third line, but teams have a first, second, third, and fourth. And the reason why you know that, it's indicated in the time on ice. Indicated on the matchups. Don't you think?
I would love to go through Florida's games in the playoffs and see how different the ice time is between the third and the fourth line at 5-on-5. I'd imagine there is a difference that delineates one is the third and one is the fourth. But
I'd be willing to bet that there is, because the third line was, sure. Lundell would list the Ryan
they don't lead third line. Yeah. But the point is that the Canadians are not the Panthers. Are they if they were as deep, if the roles were as defined, we'd be talking about a Stanley Cup contender. And I think you and I both know they're still a year at least from even approaching being able to label themselves as something anywhere near that.
Okay. That's fair enough. So let me just say this.
But do you see, let me put it another way. Last year, the Canadians had David Savard and Arbor Jacki / Jaden Struble playing on a third pair. And their ice time relative to the other two pairs would have made them a very clear third pairing.
Okay.
This year, Arbor Jacki and Alex Carrier, if I had to bet, on most nights are going to play 17 to 18 and a half minutes.
Okay.
There's the gap has been closed significantly. Why? Because that defense is a lot more balanced and a lot deeper than it was a year ago. It's a lot more mature. It's a lot more balanced, and it is deeper. I think what you see with the Canadians up front is they are deeper, but still missing the type of high-end talent where there would be a massive hierarchy beneath Suzuki's line. So I'm not saying that if everybody needs the label and they want to apply it and make it into some sort of negative connotation about, Laine, Anderson, and Evans, and it's clearly the fourth, like you said, on a given night, they might play more than the third. We'll see.
Yeah, but hey, listen, so respectfully, I think, I asked you a question about forwards and lines, and you responded with somewhat of a comparable for defense, which I think is different. So I'm going to let's just, and I don't want to harp on this, but I think it makes for a great discussion. I think people could really appreciate it, okay? Let's take a team that's not a Stanley Cup contender, okay? Let's take a look at the Ottawa Senators. Is that fair for you? They finished 6 points more than the Montreal Canadiens?
Sure.
Okay. Their center line is Stützle, Pinto, Cousins, and Lars Eller. Okay? On their first line, they likely have Stützle with Tkachuk and Drake Batherson. On their next lineup, they probably have Shane Pinto.
You don't have to go through it. We know who their fourth line is.
Okay, their fourth line is Lars Eller, Curtis McDermott, and Nick Cousins. Is it their fourth line?
Yeah, for sure.
So if we would say
those roles are more clearly defined, and that's the way the Senators are going to roll.
Okay, got it. More clearly defined rules. So are the Canadians then, in your opinion? So there's two ways of building a team. There's a way of building a team with a fourth line that has an identity, and there's a way of building a team with a fourth line that is still trying to, put some skilled players on the fourth line. Is it the Canadians have a different identity, or is it that they don't quite know where to put Laine, and that puts them in a little bit of a pickle?
Well, I think they know where to put him to get better, effective 5-on-5 minutes out of him. I think they know where he's going to be on the power play too.
So is it to put him on a fourth? Is it to put him on a line? I won't call it a fourth line anymore. But is it to put him on a line with Evans and Anderson, because they say, you know what, if we put him with these guys, chances are he's playing against other teams' fourth lines, and chances are he's playing against other teams' third pairing defensemen, and he'll probably end up doing better at 5-on-5 because
I don't know about that. I don't think that's even the main calculation. I think it's to play with two guys who play the game directly and predictably, and for him to fall in line with the way the team wants to play in general. And I think Marty St. Louis looks at his 12 forwards up front, and I sat down with Marty St. Louis today for an interview that'll be posted tomorrow at sportsnet.ca. I think he views the collective, and that's why he uses the word collective so frequently, as playing all the same way. He wants them all to play in a certain way that will enable the team to rise above its individual components.
That's probably not a bad
ideal.
It's probably not a bad mentality, by the way, because Paul Maurice had the Florida Panthers all playing the same way.
You have to go with what you have.
Okay.
You have to go with what you have. Do the Canadians have a traditional fourth line right now? No, they don't. They don't have a traditional, we're going to grind it out and beat the shit out of you type of fourth line that we saw from years ago. But the game doesn't necessarily call for that as much. I don't think Ottawa's fourth line is better than Montreal's. The names that you just spit out as a fourth line,
I don't think so either, no?
I don't think that's even close to as good as Montreal's, actually. So we'll see how it all shakes out. What I know is that one line for the Canadians is absolutely set. The other three could be used in different ways every night of the season based on how they're performing. And I think because those three are not as set and the roles not necessarily as clearly defined, you're going to see some mixing and matching at different times, not only from game to game, but within the games themselves.
Who do you got winning, the Canadians or the Leafs on Wednesday night at Toronto? Go all the way with Betway. Get a free bet up to $200. First bet loses. Scan the QR code on the screen or click on the link in detail section to create an account. Redeem your welcome offer. Offers only available for new customers. Terms and conditions apply. Offers not available in Ontario. Must be 18 years of age and older. And please play responsibly. I'd like to give a shout out to another one of our sponsors, and that is Accent Insurance Solutions. Accent, you know that all insurance isn't created equal, and you know where to find the right solution for you at Accent Insurance. Accent doesn't sell insurance. They shop the insurance for you to find the right product right on the money, whatever your insurance needs, home, automobile, or business. Visit their website, www.accentassurance.com. The number to call is 514-363-3636. Also, one of our very first partners ever was the Geloso Beverage Group in Bittt, Tibi, launching their new Ultra Lager. Refreshing, thirst-quenching beer, perfect for those cool fall days, What did I say? Those cool fall days is what I want to say, with only 90 calories. It's been a long day. 2 grams of carbs, 4% ABV per can, available in a pack of 6 and 12 in grocery stores all around the province of Quebec. It's ultra light and ultra refreshing. Okay. You take a look at the Canadians' lines. Any worries?
Not really. Like, I think the message is clear to everybody, and certainly was made clear to Patrick Laine, right? Like, it's, if you don't play the way we expect you to play, you're not going to play. That's the message to everybody here, I think.
Mm-hmm. All right. Okay.
Really, I think putting Bolduc, Gallagher, and Doc together gives Doc 2 direct guys to play with and find his rhythm and timing. That's going to be the last thing that comes to Doc as he has rehabilitated from that injury and is getting back into game action. I think putting Anderson and Evans with Laine gives Laine a safety net, but also reinforces to him there's a certain way that these two guys play the game that if you lock in and do it the same type of way, you'll come off looking better at 5-on-5, which will feed your confidence on the power play too. I think you look at the other line that's been put together. Are we losing you, Tony?
All right, I'm back. I don't know what happened. I think I lost you for a second. But Eric, one last word on the line of Kapanen, Newhook, and Demidov.
They look good. They look so good in preseason that Marty St. Louis made up his mind about them before the last game. You know, that's pretty rare, especially when you have a player that's pushing for a roster spot. I like the chemistry between Kapanen and Demidov, and obviously Kapanen and Newhook balancing each other out in the face-off circle is a good thing for Newhook, who is coming into the season with a 41% winning percentage. So
yeah,
I think that's a line that looks good. But again, you look at all three of those lines, I don't see something permanent there. Like I see this is the way we're going to start, and we'll see where it goes from there.
All right, okay. I don't know if we should all be surprised that Arbor Jackeye is starting alongside Alex Carrier, because Jackeye played more games than Jaden Struble did last year. Mind you, Jaden Struble finished strong, I think, playing in the last 10 or whatever it was, starting the playoffs before Jackeye came in Game 3. You and I have been talking about it. Jackeye's looked great in the preseason.
Jackeye's looked great in the preseason. He was, he came into camp with a job to lose there with Struble battling for it, and he clearly won it. Let's see if he can maintain that level of play. The speed of his game is up a couple of levels, not just in his skating, but his processing. And I think that's the key for Arbor Jackeye. Also, playing with Alex Carrier is going to make him look faster too, because for all the good that Savard did next to him, that wasn't one element that he could bring. No, it wasn't an element he could bring. And I'll say this, though, too. I like Struble's camp, too. I really have. Really like Struble's camp. You could do a lot worse than having Jaden Struble as your seventh defenseman, a guy who can not only plug into your lineup, but could come in on almost any pairing and look the part. So that's a good thing.
All right. It's something that a lot of people have been talking about for quite some time, is Lane Hutson's contract. Not that it has to get done right away, because, of course, Hutson is entering the final year of his contract. You and I have discussed this quite a bit. I know where you stand. You know where I stand. But he's got one more year on his contract. And the Canadiens can sign him next year if they want to wait. I wouldn't, but they have every right to do so if they want to. And Luke Hughes, who's got one more year under his belt than Lane Hutson. Last week, it was announced that he signed a 7-year deal at $9 million a year. Jackson Lacombe has signed an 8-year deal at the same kind of money. And so now everyone's talking about Lane Hutson's contract even more. And Emily Kaplan tweeted this earlier today. The NHL salary landscape is changing fast. Hearing Lane Hutson was willing to take an 8-year deal, slightly less than Noah Dobson's $9.5 million AAV, but it didn't get done on the Canadiens' end. That was before the market reset with Luke Hughes and Jackson Lacombe deals last week. Eric, your thoughts on what Emily had to report, and are you hearing the same thing?
Well, my sources had something different to say about it, which that it wasn't an 8-year deal. It was a 5-year counter from Lane Hutson's camp at close to that $9.5 million figure. So if you think about that, that would have walked him straight to unrestricted free agency. And it's years where he's not eligible, the first couple, for arbitration and not eligible to sign an offer sheet. So I don't think that was a deal that was going to get done or appetizing to the Canadiens who want to go long-term with Lane Hutson. Elliot Friedman has been talking about 8 times 9 and something in that neighborhood. I think ultimately a deal could be structured and struck between these two parties around those numbers, whether it's a little bit higher as far as Hudson's concerned or around that number for the Canadiens. There is the framework for something for them to agree on. Whether or not they actually get it done anytime soon is debatable. As Elliot reported, there was certainly some friction and emotions got hot, and, some time had to be taken out from this thing. And that's how it goes sometimes in this business. It's an emotional business, despite the fact that you want to leave your emotions away from the business table. Lacombe.
So I want to, if I can.
I want to talk about those two guys, but go ahead.
Yes, I will. Yeah. I understand both sides, okay? I understand that Gordon and Hughes have a job to do, and if I was them, I would try to get all my players under the most convenient number to me so that, if everyone leaves a little bit on the table, there's money left so that I can add another player, and it could make me a better team. It could end up making me a deeper team and probably give myself a better chance to win a Stanley Cup. I understand all of that. And then I understand the other side that says, hey, you know what? An NHL career is not guaranteed. It could be a long time. It could be a short time. And I want to get paid what I think I'm worth. And in that respect, I don't think a guy like you or I are any different. I mean, we love what we do. We're passionate about what we do. But at the same time, why should we leave money on the table for someone else to make it if we think that we can get it? So I understand both sides. The one thing that I've been saying all along is, and I understand a lot of people are saying that Noah Dobson is 6 years into his NHL career, and that's true. And that the Canadiens bought some restricted free agency years and that contract that they gave him, and all that is true too. It's also true that Lane Hutson had an incredible first year in the National Hockey League, and you don't have the kind of year that he had by fluke. You don't tie a league individual assists record that's going back since 1981 by fluke. You don't end up being the third leading point getter on your team in the regular season by fluke. You don't end up being the point leader or the assist leader on your team during the regular season by fluke. And you don't end up being the point leader on your team in the playoffs by fluke. I think that if this would have been an 8-year deal, and I tweeted this probably last week, that if this would have been an 8-year deal at $10 million, I think it would have got done. And I think it would have been great for everyone, because let me ask you this question, Eric, and you're welcome to ask me as many questions as you want. Do you think, between you and I, there's some players, you give them a contract and you say, okay, you might end up regretting that one. Let's just say hypothetically, the Canadiens give Lane Hutson an 8-year deal, $10 million. We're talking about the same Lane Hutson who's the first one on the ice and the last one off the ice. We're talking about a guy who goes 2-a-days in the summer. We're talking about a guy that absolutely wants to win and be better and perfect everything that he does. You think they would ever regret a contract like that?
Do I think the Canadiens would regret it?
Yes.
Do I think Lane Hutson would regret it if he signed for 8 years times 9?
I asked you a question. Do you think the Canadiens will regret it?
No, but Lane Hutson is not in the leverage chair in this negotiation. Otherwise, he'd get exactly what he wants. He
will be in a year from now if it hits September 16 or September 17 and they don't have a sign.
He will be when he's in Noah Dobson's situation, or even Jackson Lacombs for that matter, who is 2 years away from unrestricted free agency, already arbitration eligible, and put up underlying numbers that I don't even think fans in Montreal are even aware of. I'm sure a lot of them hadn't even heard of Jackson Lacombe.
He's a very good defenseman.
There's a reason he was invited to USA's Olympic camp, to the point that I actually looked into this today because I kept hearing Lacombe come up related to Hudson's situation. And I realized that so many people have been like, well, Lane Hutson is way better than him. And I'm not saying that Lane Hutson is not amazing. He is. I pumped his tires for all of last season because of how great of a player he is and how unique of a player he is. And I believe, by the way, to answer your question, that Lane Hutson will be worth whatever he ultimately signs for on his next deal. I believe most likely as a restricted free agent in his situation at a 10-2C with no arbitration rights and no right to sign an offer.
I understand that.
That if he gets a long-term deal that provides him security and upwards of $72 million, he is doing what a lot of players have done before him, taking something that otherwise wouldn't be available to them because of their potential. And all those players, whether it's Caulfield, Suzuki, Slavkovsky, particularly in the Canadiens case, or go across the league and look at some other examples that are similar that sign long-term at a entry level. Or you could look specifically at guys that are 10-2C free agents like Luke Hughes. All of those guys end up leaving some dollars on the table for that security, knowing that when they are in the leverage sheet, they will go out and get whopper contracts for years of their career if they sign long-term, in which they will not necessarily be worth what they'll be paid. That is how leverage works. Like Jackson Lacombe had leverage. He was arbitration eligible. He was 2 years away from unrestricted free agency. And I'll share some numbers with you and what he did because they're pretty incredible. He ranks, this is all according to Sport Logic. I looked this up today. 10th among NHL D-men in possession driving plays, 9th in line carries, so over the defensive line and offensive line, 12th for D-zone exits, 10th for controlled zone entries, 1st for completed O-zone passes off the rush. Also ranks 6th for shots on net from the slot, 5th for individual expected goals, 7th, which is tied with Cale Makar for 5-on-5 goals per 60. His D-zone puck management, he has the 7th lowest defensive zone giveaway rate in the NHL. On a team in Anaheim that missed playoffs last year and was not good enough to make it, especially from a defensive standpoint.
And then the Montreal Canadiens missed the playoffs before they got Lane Hutson. You want me to rattle off 16 advanced stats of Lane Hutson in the top 7 in the league?
His advanced stats are amazing. The point about Jackson Lacombe is like some dirt has been shoveled on him because he's Lane Hutson
but whoever talks bad about Jackson Lacombe doesn't watch hockey. Jackson Lacombe is a very good defenseman. Luke Hughes is a very good skating defenseman. Lane Hutson's a phenom. Let's put the cards on the table here. Let's stop trying to fool everybody.
But the guy who's a closer comparable is Luke Hughes, and I think Lane Hutson is a better player than Luke Hughes. But the reason that Luke Hughes got the money that he got on a deal that was held out and only given to him late in training camp has as much to do with the fact that he's Jack Hughes and Quinn Hughes' brother as it does the fact that the Devils need him playing games. Jack and Quinn went out in the media over the summer and said, we'd like to play together one day, all three of us. And I think the Devils would love for it to be for them. And I don't think they were willing to get into a longer stalemate with Luke Hughes than they were already in. And so they caved a bit. Their leverage was kind of swept away a little bit. And so they did what they had to do. The Canadiens, you asked me that question. Will they regret a deal for Lane Hutson if they end up signing one at 8 years, $10 million a year? And my answer to you is probably not. But I don't think Lane Hutson would regret personally going to the bank with $72 million at least, and then setting up his family for like 12 generations beyond that contract. But even if he didn't make it because something happened to him, God forbid, he would have that $72 million in the bank.
The insurance kicks in. So that money would be more than I ever dreamed of. So I would be okay with it.
But the reality is, Tony, and I should say it, like the cap is going up.
Yes, the cap.
There are players that are searching for more value. We heard about what Logan Cooley
and in no tax states, $8.5 million, would be $11.5 million somewhere else. I mean, there's that too. I mean, Montreal.
We also know that, like, based on some of the reporting we saw over the last few days. Not by myself, but some other people, that there are ways to make that a better situation in a place like Montreal.
Yes, I understand that. But
they've been using a place like Toronto for Austin Matthews, John Tavares, and William Nylander. So.
Yes, but I mean, yes, I understand that, and you can use that argument if you want. You can use that argument. Yeah, you can. So it comes up for a Montreal Canadiens player who's born in Chicago, Illinois. And you talk about his tax situation, and you talk about the fact that if he gets bonuses, he ends up getting a credit back where he is and all that stuff. I understand that. But like I said, like I can also play that game and tell you that there are no tax states where he can earn a heck of a lot more money, even with a lower cap hit than he would be getting in Montreal. So there could be millions and millions of dollars of difference.
You and I are both talking about this, and we're going through every angle of it. And I think it spells out when you look at every angle and every argument and counter argument as to why there isn't a deal that's been concluded yet. That could change with one phone call.
You're right.
These two parties, right?
Yes, you're right. This is what I think. Let's just end it at this. And I think we've been, I think, really fair in our assessments here is that I want to live in a world where you keep your employees as happy as possible, and you try to paint a picture of an employee could be very, very happy if he's still paid a very, very high amount of money. And you're not wrong. You're not wrong. I worked in places where I didn't think that, financially I was compensated as much as I should have been. And at times I felt disrespected. And I just wanted to be paid according to my talent. And it's just, I think you know what, if your employees, if you can keep them happy and you can keep them happy for a very long time, I just, in the end, I want this to get done. Like I love Lane Hutson as a player. And by the way, I'm fully confident that it will get done. And I'm fully confident that Lane Hutson's not going to go anywhere. And you know what? If I were a betting man, I don't think that, this thing is going to turn sour. At least maybe I'm hoping that it's not. And that he says, okay, you know what? I'm not signing long-term and I'm signing short-term and this, that, and whatever. And then after that, I don't know. But I think it would be pretty awesome If you
But
can,
what
can get it done, even imagine before the season starts, the way Edmonton did with Connor McDavid. All of a sudden, even though the Canadians can still wait another year, I think it's safe to say that the fan base wants this to happen.
Of course they do, and I think Lane Hutson wants it to happen. I think the Canadians want it to happen.
Of course. So now we have to make it happen. So what are we talking about, Eric? You and I.
When you said
we have to sit down for a coffee with them and get in between. We have to play cups and then we have to play mediators. So let's do it. Let's do it.
I don't want anything to do with that negotiation, but I will say it's interesting that you related it to your own situation. I think every player has that kind of conflict within their own head. I want what I'm worth. I want to be respected. I want to be appreciated. The difference between us and our regular lives, and we're in the business of ourselves, so are they, but they're also a part of a team.
Yeah.
You brought up Connor McDavid. He just signed a 2-year deal worth $12.5 million when he could have signed for 20 and 8.
He's going into the last year of a contract that pays him $100 million.
Yeah.
But
that doesn't change the reality that for him to want to be respected and appreciated and paid what he thinks he's worth, he could have easily asked for 20 and gotten it.
It's very honorable of him to do so, because he's going to want to win a cup in the next 3 years, and if it doesn't happen, he's out of Edmonton. But Kaprizov just signed the deal at $17 million a year.
Yeah, they're going to win.
I don't know if they're going to win. I don't know. The reality is that I don't know if they're going to win, and you don't know if they're going to win, because you don't have a crystal ball, and I don't. And if the players don't know who's going to win the cup, we certainly don't know. But Kaprizov's so the way Connor McDavid took less, Kaprizov got paid 17. So you might say, okay, you know what? Do like Connor McDavid. So
I don't think Lane
Hutson
has to sell himself quite as short as Connor McDavid did to be able to get what he wants, be respected and appreciated, and be a part of the Canadians for a long term and give them the best opportunity to build a Stanley Cup contender. I actually think that the Canadians and Lane Hutson should not be very far apart on what would make both of them not happy, but that would make a deal that they could both accept. Good negotiations, Tony.
Slavkovsky gave the Canadians a discount?
Good negotiations, Tony.
Yeah.
Are ones that end with two parties getting a deal that they can accept.
Perfect.
Not what they want. And did Slavkovsky give the Canadians a discount? Yeah. Logan Cooley just turned down, according to Frank Saravalli, $9.66 million a year over the next 8.
Yes. Because Slavkovsky.
Because he had a 65-point season and a 47-point season, and Slavkovsky had 2 50-point seasons?
Yeah, but Slavkovsky did not sign his contract, Eric, after his last 51-point season. Slavkovsky signed his contract the year before. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Again, he was offered a long-term contract with security and signed it. He could have bet on himself. Lane Hutson has the right to bet on himself.
Perfect.
Also.
So think about this. Yuri Slavkovsky, who went first overall and had 6'3" and 225 pounds, played a year and a half of hockey and had a combined 60 points and signed for $7.6 million. And Lane Hutson, in his rookie season, had 66 points. Once again, led the Canadians in assists, third leading point getter in the regular season, best leading point getter in the playoffs, and won the Calder Trophy as Rookie of the Year. So I don't think Slavkovsky gave the Canadians much of a discount, and I don't know why it applies to Lane. But your argument is, 1 year later, Slavkovsky gave the Canadians a discount because Logan Cooley turned down 9.6.
If Slavkovsky waited till
Slavkovsky was signed a year and a half before Logan
if Slavkovsky waited till now and held out, he might be looking at a bigger offer. He's their first line right winger. It was a first overall pick who has 2 50-point seasons, one at 49, one 50.
Yeah.
First season was what it was. He was the youngest player in the league.
But a year and a half ago, when he signed at $7.6 million, did we know that the cap was going up the way it was going up over the next 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years?
We didn't have the specific numbers, but we absolutely knew where hockey revenue was going.
Perfect. So what do you think the equivalent of $7.6 million a year and a half ago is today? And what do you think the numbers that Lane Hutson put up today are worth?
I think they're worth pretty damn well close to exactly what he's being offered.
Okay. All right.
After one season and from a 10-2C free agent standpoint.
Perfect. I'll have one last question.
And if they're able to come to terms on what he's looking for and what they're offering, then we won't have to talk about this anymore.
You know what? I can't wait to stop talking about this, because this is the only thing that I'm getting hit with. Whether whether I'm doing radio, I'm doing television, I'm doing podcasting, it's coming up all the time. And by the way, do you notice that it's a topic that's coming up everywhere, on every network, on every platform, on every medium? I can't wait to stop talking about this. I'll say this. I'll ask you a question. I keep on saying I'll say this. We've said a million things. If the Canadiens let it be known that they wanted to trade Lane Hutson because Lane Hutson would want, this is all hypothetical, an 8-year deal at $10 million. And by the way, for all I know, Hudson's clan is asking for a 5 and a 6-year deal, and they don't want to know nothing about 8. I don't know. I don't have that knowledge. Let's just say, hypothetically, the Canadiens let it be known to teams that we're not going to be able to sign Lane Hutson because, you know what? He's only going to sign an 8-year deal if it's $10+ million a year, and we're not willing to do that. Okay? And they would put him available on the market. Do you think teams would shy away knowing that it would take 8 years times $10 million to sign Lane Hutson, or do you think every team would be all in?
I don't know what it has to do with this situation here.
I just think that if the Canadiens don't want to give it to him, and they have all the rights right now, but if every team in the National Hockey, and I'm saying it's hypothetical, but if every team in the National Hockey League would give it to him eyes closed, why shouldn't the Canadiens?
I don't know. It's a strange hypothetical with him being a year away from the situation that we're talking about. Like, he's
You're right.
year away from when he has to sign.
Hopefully we don't get to that year and we can get it over with so that you and I could stop talking about it, because it's starting to get
I'm kind of enjoying talking about it.
I'm starting to get rattled just talking about it all this one. Okay, so now with that said, do you have any crazy predictions for this Montreal Canadiens season that we're all so very much looking forward to?
I made some on Spit and Chiclet, so I don't want to repeat them. I think the Canadiens are going to make the playoffs. That's my prediction. I don't think it's crazy. I do think it's going to be a hell of a challenge, right? They're not going to surprise anybody this season. Everybody knows that they're coming.
You don't think they're better than they were a year ago? They're better.
They might be, and maybe it turns them from being a 91 point to a 96 point team. But maybe 96 points doesn't end up being enough to make the playoffs with other teams surging.
You know why they're better?
New Jersey, and New York missed the playoffs last year. Are they both going to miss it this year?
I hear you. You know why they're better? Well, New Jersey would have made it if they would have had Lane Hutson instead of Luke Hughes. Now, you know why they're better?
No, tell me.
Because Lane Hutson was able to take a team that didn't make the playoffs the year before and get them into the playoffs. And Luke Hughes was on a team that unfortunately did not do better than they did the year before. You know why the Canadiens are better? The Canadiens are better.
Nick Suzuki had nothing to do with it.
Nick Suzuki had a lot to do with it. Okay. I also think that Lane Hutson had something to do with Nick Suzuki picking up a career best in points.
Tony, I think maybe you should be his agent. Maybe you should fire his agent and hire you.
Maybe you should work for Kent. I think you would be good at that too. Now, here's the deal. Okay, here's the deal. Let me ask you this.
I could just
you don't want to know why?
I could just see the comments from the fans rolling in right now.
It's okay. You know what? We just want the engagement. They can comment whatever they want. The Canadiens are going to be better because the Canadiens have Bolduc, they have Demidov for a full season, and they have Noah Dobson. And on this note, I had a chance to catch up with him yesterday. I'd love for you to hear. It's just 3 minutes. Okay. Sick podcast with Montreal Canadiens defenseman Noah Dobson. Noah, thanks for doing this.
No problem. Thank you.
Noah, huge expectations in Montreal, and it comes with, of course, being a Montreal Canadian, and it comes with the contract, and it comes with everything. How do you prepare for that?
Yeah, I think you just be yourself. I think just because you're on a new team and contract, doesn't matter what your contract is, I try and be the best version of myself every night, and that's my focus. I want to try to help the team. It's a hungry group. We all want to take the next steps, and I want to be a big part of that.
A little bit of an injury during this preseason, but you were able to play on Saturday night. From a health perspective, what percentage are you at?
Yeah, it was good to get back in. I feel good now. Obviously felt better as the game went on. Sucks to miss a couple of days, but feel great coming into this season. Excited to get going, and going to be a big first game, and hopefully build off that and continue for a big season.
What will Noah Dobson bring to the table?
I think for me, I just want to bring overall two-way game from the back end. I want to be an offensive guy, but also be a guy that can be reliable defensively, play in all situations, and like I said, do whatever I can each night to help the team have success. At the end of the day, we're all striving as a group to take those next steps and do whatever I can to be a big part of that.
You played just shy of about 390 games in the National Hockey League over about 5.5 seasons. You had a drop-off in production last year, but you had a huge season the season before with 70 points. Can Noah Dobson get back to being a 70-point player, or is that really not the focus or the emphasis?
Yeah, I think so for sure. I think obviously it's, there's ups and downs throughout seasons. Things go well, things don't go well, but I think I've learned a lot throughout how many games I've played. I'm going to continue each day to strive to get better, but I feel great coming in this season. I'm confident about my game, and obviously want to have a big year for the team. And I feel like whatever the numbers, point totals, don't focus on that, but I know there's a level of my game I continue to grow and get to, and that's my focus.
You come to a new team, new teammates, new locker room, new everything. What's the first thing that stood out to you?
I think just a tight-knit group it is. Everyone loves being around each other. Guys have fun at the rink, but it's also a hungry group. Guys are pushing each other on and off the ice. Like I said, everyone's hungry and eager to get the season going, and we want to take those next steps. So it's been great to integrate with the group. Been a pretty easy transition, and the guys have all been great. So it's been great so far.
I wish you a great season.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, there you are. I like this guy a lot personally. I really, really like him. He seems like a good dude. Your thoughts on what we can expect in ending from Noah Dobson this season?
Well, I thought it was a good interview. You asked some good questions. I think, you gauge the fan base reaction to his training camp, right, which was interrupted by a groin injury smack in the middle of it. The last game that he played left a lot to be desired, and that's what you get from a player who's had X amount of games in the league and is going into his 7th or 8th season. I have to go check, and wants to just make it through the preseason and get to the regular season.
I think it's the 7th season he's going into. Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you saw the same thing, Tony, but I saw a guy who just wanted to get through the game. And
yes. Yeah, I saw him get crucified by many on Saturday night after the game. Yeah. I don't think that's. I listen. In the words of Carey Price, chill. It's preseason, and there's a lot of veterans that just. Yeah. They kind of like just.
So I agree with that. The other side of it is obviously the messaging from the start of this camp, from coaching staff through all players, was don't wait to flip the switch. Like, it's now.
Yeah.
I think you have to take into account that, like you said, and like you asked Noah, he's on a new team, a new system, a completely new way of playing with new line mates, the only new teammates. The only person that he knew coming to the team was Nick Suzuki. It's a lot to take in. You have to expect that as each passing day goes by, he will get better and better. I think that's what the ability of the player is. He has high-end ability. He's a great puck mover, a great offensive producer, and a guy who can defend very well with his feet and his stick, and sometimes use that size, even if it's not his main calling card as a physical defenseman. I think Canadiens fans, if they give him a chance, will come to appreciate him with time, but he needs that time to be able to show exactly what he is. He can't take too much of it, though, because we know what's riding on this season. We know how challenging the season is going to be, as we were just talking about their place in the standings and some other teams that'll be pushing. And, I hope for him that it all goes really well, because he's going to be here for a long time and making a lot of money. I finally froze you.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow The Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group, driven to be different. Bittt, embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination.